Hello students. So this is the video which will be elaborating on the different phyla of invertebrates under animal kingdom. The previous video we had discussed about 5 kingdoms. What are the different kinds of organisms classified under 5 kingdoms, and we had just started an introductory discussion on animal kingdom. So this one is going to be a detailed account of animal kingdom. So the first animal kingdom and the most underdeveloped one is Porifera. Why such a name, Porifera? Because if I break up the word, it gives me two halves. Pori comes from the word pore. Pore means aperture. So this kind of organism, they have apertures, they have pores all over their body surface. Fera, the word fera means bearing, which means it comes to pore bearing animals. So pore bearing animals are called Porifera. Now, as you can see, I have shown over here that these are cellular grade organisms, which means in case of poriferans, which are basically sponges, they are multicellular, but the different cells of their body do not have that organizational power. They have not organized themselves into tissues. The cells work independently and tissue system is absent in poriferans. What is a tissue? When a group of cells, they work together for a particular purpose to perform a particular job, that is called a tissue. But in poriferans, this is absent. There are many cells, but the cells work independently. And these organisms, basically, they are aquatic. They can be, mostly they are freshwater, but some can be marine also. Diploblastic. Now, what is this word diploblastic? Diplo, the word diplo means two. Blastic over here means layers. So the cells of such organisms, they constitute the body wall, and the body wall has got two layers, two embryonic layers, one outer and one inner. Outer one is called ectoderm, and inner one is called endoderm. If I show you picture, this is the picture of a simple sponge, okay, where you can see over here, this is written as, so this is the outer wall, and this one is the inner wall. And inside the inner wall, there is a cavity, okay, a hollow cavity, which is called spongocyl. Now this outer wall, you can see different kinds of cells are there. Pinacocytes, okay, then porocytes. These are there in the outer wall. And there are pores also. Two porocytes enclose a pore. What are these pores called? Each pore is called ostium, and plural ostia. So each pore is called ostium and plural is called ostia. What are they meant for? Since they do not have a tissue grade organization, no special division of labor is there. So these pores are there, which allows water to pass into the animal body, and along with water, food also enters. Water contains dissolved gases also. Those gases are used for respiration. So pores, basically, they are allowing water to come in. How the water is coming in? Now, there are certain flagellated cells. Over here you see flagellated cells called choanocytes. Flagellated means they have flagella associated with them. So these are the flagella. The flagella, it beats on the water. As a result, water currents are generated, and with the current, the water comes in through the pores, through the ostia. Now, after it enters the organism, that water which contains food, different gases, it will circulate in the spongocyl, and after the usable materials that come along with water are used. Suppose food used for digestion, respiratory gases used for respiration. After all these things are done, then certain harmful substances will be formed which the animal would like to get rid of. So those harmful substances, which are basically indigestible, or you may say undigested food, those will be thrown out, or the excretory materials will be thrown out through a large opening at one end of the animal's body, and this large opening is called osculum. So these are the main features. This is the body plan of a sponge, and these are the main characteristics of sponge. Okay? So see, all these characteristics are written over here. And then a sponge is a sessile organism, which means it cannot locomote. It remains fixed to the substratum. It doesn't go from here to there in a water body. Although there are flagella, but the flagella are with some cells, and flagella, they are only meant for generating the water currents, not for locomotion of the organism. And since they are very underdeveloped animals, so they have a high power of regeneration. There is no reproductive structure. Reproductive organs are not found. So how will they reproduce? So they have immense power of regeneration, which means if one part of the body is somehow shed off or cut off, from that shed off portion, a new sponge body, new sponge organism can emerge, can develop. Now the next phylum is Neidaria. Previously, Neidaria and Ctenophora, these two were together. They were brought under one phylum, which was called Coelenterata. Coelenterata. But now Coelenterata has been divided. Neidaria has been placed in one phylum, Ctenophora in another phylum. So coelenterates means Neidarians and Ctenophorans, but phylum Coelenterata is no longer usable. It's no longer in use. We say phylum Neidaria or phylum and phylum Ctenophora. So Neidaria, the word comes from neidocytes, which are certain defensive cells that are present in these organisms. These cells can secrete neurotoxin. So suppose when the organism faces any kind of danger, some kind of an animal is trying to attack it. So what will it do? It will secrete a neurotoxin from its neidocytes. See, it's written over here, nematocysts. These nematocysts are also called neidocytes, which secrete the toxin, and that toxin will harm its predator. So what are the basic characteristics? Now Neidarians, they are tissue grade. So from cellular grade, now the animals have evolved and they have formed a tissue grade organization. Neidarians, they are aquatic. Mainly they are marine, which means they can be found only in oceans or seas. Diploblastic, which means they have two layers, outer ectoderm, inner endoderm, but the two layers are separated by a third layer in between. And that third layer is a very, viscous jelly-like layer which is called mesoglia. So outer ectoderm, middle mesoglia, inner endoderm. That doesn't mean they are three-layered body wall. They have no two-layered body wall because mesoglia is underdeveloped. So that is why we will still consider them to be diploblastic. Now mouth. They have a mouth which is encircled by tentacles. So if we try to see a picture, say this one. So this is the mouth, and the mouth, it is surrounded by tentacles. This is a jellyfish that has been shown on screen. So the mouth, it is encircled by tentacles, and the tentacles bear those nidocytes which I have already described. These tentacles. So these tentacles, they bear the nidocytes which help in defense. These tentacles will also help the animal to locomote. So poriferans were sessile. These organisms are not sessile. They can move. They can locomote from one place to another with the help of tentacles. Okay, and there is also a cavity inside the organism which is called gastrovascular cavity. Gastrovascular cavity. Why such a name? Gastro is related to stomach, gastric, stomach, which means this cavity must be performing digestion. And digestion in case of cnidarians takes place outside the cells, so they have extracellular digestion. So this gastrovascular cavity is there inside the organism. This cavity is basically called coelenteron, from where they get the name coelenterata. Coelenteron, enteron. Enteron means intestine, which means this cavity can have functions of stomach and intestine. So enteron, cell, C-O-E-L, cell. Cell means a cavity. So a cavity which behaves like intestine will be gastrovascular cavity. So these are the main characteristics of phylum Neidaria. Next comes phylum Platyhelminthus. Platy means flat. So this kind of organism, they are dorso-ventrally flattened, which means dorso means dorsal. So suppose this is the organism. This is the front side. This is the back side. Front side will be called ventral. Back side will be called dorsal. So when an organism from the front and from the back, when it is flattened, we call it dorso-ventrally flattened. So these worms are dorso-ventrally flattened. So that's why platy. Helminth. Helminth means worm, which means they have a wriggling type of a movement. They do not have any locomotory organs. Insects have locomotory organs because often students get confused between a worm and an insect. Worms do not have locomotory structures. Insects have locomotory structures. So worms, they show a wriggling movement. So Platyhelminthus, the best example would be tapeworm. Okay, dorso-ventrally flattened body. They can be liver fluke also, Fasciola hepatica. So these are, what is so special about them? These are the first triploblastic animals. That means their body wall has 3 germ layers. Over here, germ doesn't mean any harmful bacterium or virus. Germ means, over here germ means or comes from the word germination, which means giving rise to. So basically, what is the function of body layers? Ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. These three layers are there in such animals. What is their utility? Ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, basically they give rise to organs. That is the significance. So in case of Platyhelminthus, we first find the presence of mesoderm, and we also find presence of organs. So Platyhelminthus, they have organ grade organization, they have intestines, flame cells. Now what are flame cells? Flame cells are their organs of excretion. They have a nervous system which looks like a ladder. They have a ladder-like nervous system. They do not have brain, proper brain. Brain is very ill-developed, very poorly developed. They do not have any spinal cord. Simply they have a ladder. A ladder where two nerve cords are there, interconnected by several other connectives. Okay? They are bisexual, which means male reproductive organs and female reproductive organs both are found in the same organism. And mostly they are parasitic. One or two may be free living, like Planaria. Planaria, it's a free living platyhelminth. I'll show you one picture of tapeworm. So this is a tapeworm. This is a tapeworm. In a tapeworm, why such a name? Because it looks like a tape. It has a ribbon-shaped body. This is the head of the tapeworm. They are parasites. Parasites will suck the nutrition. Tapeworms, their host is either a pig or a human being. They reside in the intestines of these animals. So when they reside in the intestine of a human being, their head contains suckers. With the help of suckers, they can suck in the nutrition. They can suck in the nutrition. As a result, the host gets, malnourished, but the tapeworm, it gets nourishment. It harms the host. It's few meters long. It can stay in the intestine, but it's few meters long. It can be this long also. So, and if not treated earlier through blood, it can even reach brain. It can attack brain of a human being and may result in death of that person. So extremely dangerous organisms. So these three phyla which we have discussed today, Porifera, Neidaria, Platyhelminthus, these are the preliminary animals evolved. Out of these two, Poriferans, Neidarians, they have two body layers, two germ layers. In fact, in Poriferans, the two layers are not so developed. Neidarians have well-developed ectoderm, endoderm. Platyhelminthus, they mark the beginning of triploblastic animals. Okay, and all of them, they have body cavities, but the body cavity, we cannot call them coelom. It's not a true body cavity. Now, what is a coelom? What is a true body cavity? We will explain that. We will come back to that in the next video. And then we will proceed with our further discussion regarding animal kingdom.